What's up, horror and sci fi fans? Today we're diving into one of the biggest debates of the past year of 2025. Which show had the better ending? It, Welcome to Derry, or Stranger Things Season 5? Coming up next. Remember to like and subscribe if you want more of this content to keep on rolling. Let's go. All right, so both shows wrapped up massive stories in late 2025, and Happy New Year's to everybody watching right now. And both ended with huge fan reactions from praises to controversy. In this video, we'll break it down. Both shows wrapped up with massive stories in late 2025. And Happy New Year's to everybody. And both ended with huge fan reactions from praises to controversy. In this video, we'll break it down. So, we're going to take a look at how each ending played out, what worked and what didn't, how fans reacted online, and which final felt more satisfying overall. Let's get into it. All right. So, first up, we're going to go through Stranger Things Season 5. Ooh, let's go. The final season, titled The Right Side Up, brought the Hawkins crew together for the first time in like 2, 3 seasons. So the main conflict centered on Vecna and the Mind Flayer. And spoiler alert, Vecna wasn't the big bad. It was actually the Mind Flayer. Vecna was just a puppet. So the true evil beneath the Upside Down was actually the Mind Flayer. So, in a sequence of intense psychic and physical battles, 11, Callie, Max, Will, Hopper, Joyce, and the rest of the Scooby Doo gang faced off against Vecna inside a fractured mental realm, while others worked to destroy the Mind Flayer physical presence, which, wasn't easy. So, they defeated Vecna in his mind realm like in 10 seconds or less. I mean, you do lose points with that, I believe, with the fans. They weren't really happy with that battle, that it went so quickly. They were actually hoping for a little bit more of a challenge from Vecna and the Mind Flare. They did destroy the Mind Flare, surviving the upside down from Earth. So they saved the world from the apocalypse also in this uh, finale. But the emotional centerpiece isn't just survival, it's the sacrifice that comes with victory. 11 appears to give her life to ensure that threat is ended. Yet, in a final twist, possibly illusion or reality, she may have survived, leaving quietly in Iceland, we believe, based on like the rivers and stuff that we saw in that flashback in the ending, which Mike, he didn't really figure it out. He thought, you know, Elle was dead the whole time until he was at the graduation and he saw the speakers and then he realized that, hold up, Elle wasn't able to use her powers because of those uh, projectiles that dampen her powers. Final also gave us closure to many relationships. Hopper and Joyce find peace. They got engaged and all of that good stuff, so that was great. Couples stayed together, and friends say goodbye. But the ending was ambiguous, both hopeful and bittersweet. So now let's talk reactions on this Stranger Thing ending with the fans and stuff. Some fans loved it. They grew up with these characters over the years. It was 5 seasons. You watch them grow from, little kids to young adults. And so there was a lot of attachment there with that. And a big final battle and a meaningful emotional core, but other panned the choice to go for more confronting ending instead of something darker or more complex. One Reddit thread slammed it for being too predictable, simplified, and Netflix style safe, saying the plot lost its depth and complexity and that the closure felt superficial. So, Stranger Things ending delivering closure, but not everyone was satisfied with how did it end. My personal take on the ending, I definitely thought it was very, very safe ending. Um, there were no real stakes on the line. I didn't feel that any of the characters were in any real immediate danger. Um, they were heading towards Vecna's castle in the Upside Down, and they were like stopping and talking, taking forever to even reach there. And they know that all of these little kids were lives were on the line. I think a dozen of them, and that was really frustrating. I mean, come on, there was no sense of urgency there, so they kind of lost me with that. Now, let's switch it over and take it to it. Welcome to Derry, the HBO Stephen King prequel series, which also concluded its first season in December 2025. As a prequel to the original It movie, this show dives into Pennywise' earliest rise and the origins of the fear that plagues Derry. So, in the final, the young protagonists face Pennywise in a climactic confrontation that is both physical and psychological. Ooh. So, the community is fractured, the military becomes unstable, and the supernatural chaos spread through these towns. Underbelly? Chaotic. But unlike the movies, the series doesn't simply replicate the ritual of Chud. Instead, Pennywise is shown as more of a cosmic and unknowable entity. Basically, something like the Mind Flare. Ooh, so Pennywise was just a puppet like Vecna. Ha ha ha. Big reveal. So, characters grapple with fear and memory loss. There was some survive, others barely escape tragedy. I mean, yeah, the stakes were high on this. You know, not to take anything away from Stranger Things, but I just didn't feel the stakes were that high on that. And the final ending with a mix of hope and unresolved dread, not a clean victory. After the final moments, the town of Derry is forever changed, and the characters walked away with a conflicting memory and tenuous peace. Uh, let's check it out deeper. So, the fan reactions to it. Welcome to Derry. You want to hear more? All right, are also mixed, but in very different ways. Some viewers praise the final emotional beats and its world building, saying it felt like a true Stephen King experience, which I thought also. I started watching like a bunch of other Stephen King shows after watching that season finale of it. I started going into everything, right? And I got hooked. So that caught me. Haunting, unresolved, and unsettling in all the right ways. But others criticize the final for not fully explaining Pennywise's powers, which is unbelievable. I mean, he basically has some of the mind flare type powers with telekinesis and stuff like that. But also, with Pennywise, he can also be in multiple different places at one time. The Deadlight entity is a basically a cosmic entity. So, what else did the fans kind of disapproved of? Characters getting easier escapes than expected. Plot holes were memories didn't logically stick. A final tone that felt too soft or upbeat for King's mythology. So some thought that the ending was a little bit too happy with all the kids going away, but you did have Richie that died in the fire, R.I.P., which was very, very touching. His funeral, everything, the ghost being there, using the shining power and all that. Son was there. I was like emotional during that part. So that really touched me. Some of these critics are like die hard. And also, a Reddit thread shows fans conflicted. Some loved the emotional victories, others felt the stakes were too low or the horror diluted. But, you had kids involved. They didn't want to get too gory with the kids, but some of the adults got some crazy uh, endings to their character. So while Stranger Things gave a complete ending, and of course, because it was like the season finale for the whole series, so they had to give a whole complete ending, and um, this was just like season one for Welcome to Derry. So there's going to be other seasons, and then of course, I believe 3 seasons in total, and the third season should go back to the beginning when the Deadlight entities actually took Pennywise. So that should definitely give the whole conclusion of Welcome to Derry a better ending, I believe. So that's why that Derry left the door open intentionally. So let's take a look to decide which ending was better. And we have to look not just at the plot, but the themes and the arcs. Stranger Things ended with themes of friendship and chosen family, sacrifice and survival, nostalgia and growing up, closure, both emotional and narrative. It wrapped the character's journey with a sense of peace, even if some fans wanted more complexity. Meanwhile, Welcome to Derry focused on fear as a general curse, memory and trauma, the unknowable nature of cosmic evil, a world that doesn't neatly resolve. That's the key. Stranger Things leaned into closure, Derry embraced more of an open ending, which is more satisfying. Let's take a deep dive. That depends on the viewers. If you want answers, closures, and emotional payoffs, Stranger Things win with that because, like I stated before earlier, it's basically the wrap up of all of the seasons in one. If you want a horror that lingers and a final that feels like the story continues beneath the surface, Derry wins. So, who actually had the better ending? Let's break it down head to head. Story completeness, Stranger Things. Emotional closure, Stranger Things. Thematic depth, both, but Derry leans darker. Unpredictability, Derry. World building payoff, Derry. In other words, Stranger Things gave closure, Derry gave mystery. One is a classic, final satisfaction. The other is a cosmic entity ready to be opened like a Pandora's box. If you want a concluded story with heroes who change the world and relationships that feel complete, Stranger Things delivers exactly that. If you want a final that haunts you and leaves you thinking about what's next, Welcome to Derry did that very well, even if not perfectly. So, here's the question for you. Which ending hit harder? The big emotional final farewell of Stranger Things or the eerie, lingering, half open door of it? Welcome to Derry. Let me know in the comments and be specific. Are you someone who loves closure or do you prefer endings that keep you guessing? Smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's keep the horror discussion going. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.